Hello and welcome to the People Chronicles Storied Women. My name is Anna Rose Ingarra-Milch and I am your host. I am also the author of Lunch with Lucille. Lunch with Lucille is a story how one woman's life impacted another woman. And today on Storied Women, I brought someone from our community who's going to share her story. And she's also going to tell us a little bit about what she does for a living, which is a little different than many of the women that we've had on Storied Women, I would say, as a footnote to that. And my guest today is Dr. Sudha Allitt. I said it wrong.
No, you said it correct.
I said it correct. And she's the co-founder of the Kula Kamala Foundation. So even though it's going to be a different story, I know that you're going to tell us today, the question is the same, and that is, what is it that you want us to remember from the takeaway?
So the takeaway from today's conversation would be that each and every one of us has the capacity to be more deeply compassionate, kind, loving, accepting, courageous, brave, creative than we can even begin to believe in this moment. And that if we remain open to the possibility that we are more than we perceive ourselves to be, then we'll give ourselves permission to follow our dreams, pursue our path, and open ourselves up to a world of our making.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a journey.
It is a journey. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me about your journey. How'd you get?
Well, my journey's been 54 years so far. And it started off a little rough. You know, I have a background where in my childhood there was a lot of trauma. Mm-hmm. There was also a lot of love, but there was a lot of trauma, and the trauma was significant. And I forgot who I was as a result of that. So I shut down and spent a lot of my teenage years not believing in myself and not believing in the goodness that exists.
I think that a lot of I think that's that angst time.
Yeah.
Naturally, I mean, you know, and then to add trauma to that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And so, starting from my later teens up until my late 20s, I really underwent a journey of self-transformation where I made the active choice of wanting to heal from the traumas of my youth and wanting to live a life where I was present to it. And so during that time, I was introduced to yoga and many other mindfulness practices as well. But eventually the yoga is what stayed with me. And so through the practices of yoga, but particularly through the teachings of yoga, and with the support of many wonderful women from the Hazlitt Women's Center, which is no longer there, or it's in a new paradigm at this point.
Is that local?
No, it's in New Jersey, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hazlitt, New Jersey. I was able to recover myself and reconnect with myself and eventually find the path that I should be walking in this life. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So, and you used a couple of terms that reconnect with yourself. So it's going back to zero.
Going back to zero.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to find out who I used to be. Mm-hmm. It's just who am I right now, and that person that I am in this moment is fine. You know, I'm fine. I'm healthy. Fine. I'm present in my own life. I'm happy. There are ups and downs every day.
Sure.
But I think that the beauty of what I have been gifted in this life is the understanding that the ups and downs don't define me. Yeah, and so and those ups and downs are actually a doorway to rediscovery of the self in every moment.
Yeah. Have there been no ups and downs, I think life would be a little bit boring.
It would be.
You know, I mean, how do
Absolutely.
how do you learn? You know, there's the learning is ending if there's no ups and downs, I guess, and kind of boring. I mean,
exactly. You know, and there's these sayings currently, that are very popular today about how you're perfect exactly as you are, and it's true. We are perfect exactly as we are, but we're also perfectly flawed. And it's the perfection of the flaws that constantly open us back up to remembering our own wholeness, to remembering our own innate capacity to heal, to be compassionate, to love, and to love more fully, more creativity as well.
Yeah, that finding the perfection in the imperfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, and and you probably know better than I do, there's I think it's a Japanese term, wasabi.
Not too sure.
Yeah, it's finding the perfect in the imperfect.
I know that there's a practice, I'm not sure if it's Japanese, but there's a practice where if a vase is broken, they don't throw it away.
Yes,
they
that's
meld
it.
it with the gold.
Yes,
okay,
that's
exactly.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
And you say it's perfect. It's
perfect.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes, that's it. Yeah.
The alchemy of it is taking that which we might perceive as being not useful to us and transforming it into something that is highly useful, and taking the parts of ourself that we're not overly happy with and allowing them to evolve. Not getting rid of them, but allowing them to evolve so that they can so that we can find the goodness in there. For example, if we take anger and we say, well, I don't like being angry, so I'm just going to stuff it a little bit. Instead, we should embrace the anger. We should take it, we should sit with it, understand that it's a natural emotion, and investigate how to allow that anger to transform into love, how to allow anger to transform into resolution, how to allow anger to bring forward our very best and kindest self. Because there's already enough harm in the world. There's so much harm in the world right now.
There's so much harm, yeah.
There's so much. We don't need more harm. What we really need are activists who are starting from kindness, activists who are starting from compassion, and activists who are starting from unity, this self-discovery or rediscovery process. Yeah.
So how do we get other people to do that? You know, how do we get people on that bandwagon, so to speak? I mean, I don't know what to call it, but how do we get them on that path? Yeah. You know, we see the pain, we see the suffering every day, you know, and how do we get that? You know, how do we kick that off, so to speak? You know?
Yeah, it's part of the work that I do, actually. So, so my journey has brought me to this 54th year of life, where myself and along with my husband, we have founded an ashram out in Alsace, which is just north of Reading, and we're a community service organization. So an ashram is a spiritual school of yoga. We focus on the teachings that begin with nonviolence. And are based in compassion and self-study and non-grasping and unity and all of these other very beautiful phrases, you know. And we teach people that who are interested. They come, they take some classes, maybe they come to a talk or two, and they learn a little bit more about themselves. And through the self-inquiry and a healthy curiosity, they suddenly want to know more. They want to know, well, how do I change my life so I can be a happier person? How do I change my life so I can reduce stress, reduce anxiety, and be a little bit healthier? And that's really where we need to start. We need to start by educating people on how to reduce basic day-to-day stress and anxiety, how to simplify, you know. And through simplification, through allowing life to be a little simpler, friendships and communities begin to thrive because we're all breathing a little more healthfully and being a little slower paced, not so rushed. We can actually take time to have these beautiful conversations. Yeah. You know? Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
You just you exude this joy. It's wonderful to be in your presence.
Thank
you.
Really is. It's wonderful to be in your presence too. Absolutely.
It's wonderful. But we're going to wrap up in a second. But you know, when you were talking about yoga, and I have to admit, I've gone to yoga classes, but to me it's very slow. I know, and I have a tough time doing the slow, you know. But there's much more to yoga than, you know, and that's what my friends will tell me. You know, there's so much more to yoga, Anna Rose, than just going slow and trying to get into this position and that position. Yeah. There's a whole school behind. I mean, there's a whole teaching behind it. Yes. Yeah. So, can you just give us you know, what it is all about? I mean,
absolutely. The word yoga means union. And so the word yoga means to unify. And we can look at it as unifying body, mind, and spirit. We can look at it as unifying communities. But it is union, and that's what the word means. And there's a series of techniques associated with yoga, which would be the postures, the breathing practices, the meditations. Those are techniques of yoga. And those techniques, when practiced well and skillfully, can lead us to the experience of connection, the experience of union. And so they often say that the thing you like the least is what you should do the most.
Great, thanks. And that's the end of the show.
There we go.
Okay.
And so yoga has two levels. The first is, the first includes these techniques of yoga, which have the potential to bring us to this greater connection, which can be very practical day-to-day living with our families, our friends, our neighbors. But it can also go into the spiritual, of course, naturally as an overall unity within this world, within this universe and beyond. Yoga is not a religion. It is a spirituality, and it is a path of healing, for sure. It is a path of healing, yeah. And it's also service-based. I could talk about yoga for a long time.
Well, maybe we'll have to have you back on. But our
part two.
Yeah,
Part
part
two,
two, yes.
part two.
Part two of Suhda. Suhda part two. But I appreciate you coming in and sharing this with us, because I think the message that you send is so very valuable. This day, every day, I mean, in this point in history, but in every point in history, is just the unity. We have to come together. We have to figure this out together. We have to do it together.
We need to figure it out.
Yeah.
But there's only two ways to go. And we don't want to go the one way.
Yeah.
We don't want to go the one way, because the one way is just further suffering. If we truly in our hearts want to heal, and I feel that is truly what every one of us wants, is to heal.
I do too. I agree. I totally agree with that.
Then we need to put down our identifications, put down our anger, put down our unhealthy anger. We should keep our healthy anger. Put down our unhealthy anger. Come together and have the greater conversation. How can we walk forward together toward a greater harmony? It's very 1960s, peace, love, and harmony. But the reality is, the reality is, what's the alternate to the peace, love, and harmony?
That's right.
More suffering.
Exactly.
I like the peace, love, and harmony.
I agree. It's much easier.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for sharing your story.
Thank you
I appreciate
so
it.
much for having me on today. It's been a joy, truly.
Likewise. And thank you for listening.
These stories are made possible in part by Spring Ridge Financial, Heidelberg Restaurant, and Queen City Restaurant.
Thank you for following Storied Women on the People Chronicles. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The People Chronicles, and you won't miss any stories.